Let's begin Chapter 13 on parcels, but this time we're going into the nitty-gritty of some of them on displaying and annotating them like we've done in previous chapters with alignments, profiles, corridors, cross-sections, and now parcels. So in the last chapter, we used various methods to make parcels, to edit parcels, to create them, to manipulate them, to add documentation to them with a little bit of what's inside of a parcel. But now we're going to be learning about changing their appearance, their styles, and we're going to be learning about adding segment labels and different types of labels they have. So styles, how they look, different area and segment labels, the area being the entire parcel in its entirety, the segment, the pieces of it, which are basically consisting of lines and curves for the most part. 99% of most parcels are created with lines and curves of a tangent nature to each other, usually, not always. Then we're going to learn about segment labels, which is both lines and curves, and finally tables at the end, which we learn on many aspects of Civil 3D. With any kind of Civil 3D dynamic object, we can generally produce tables for certain entities within them. Parcels are no different in that. So we've learned the beginning of the battle is to make the said Civil 3D object, and that's only halfway through the battle. We're going to learn to, as entities need to review our plans, whether it's a subdivision reviewed by a city or another authority, annotating and dimensioning and annotating and all of those things that go on to plans of what we design is the second half of the battle. So that's why a lot of these chapters break into the second part of annotating and better displaying said Civil 3D objects we created. So with that, let's start with our first file, which is applying parcel styles. So just like that in Moodle, we have, once again, about 8 files or so. I'm going to be working in Civil 3D 2022. To see how well all these old files still work. With that being said, I haven't had a lot of trouble in most of these chapters. Well, that's thinking. Let's go back here to our first file. So going into discussion of this chapter, parcels, as we described in Chapter 13, are individually owned lots, whether it's publicly owned, privately owned, or a municipality, say with a road right-of-way, whether it's public or private. Easements, which are legal areas that imply different, basically ownerships or rights, prescriptive rights to or non-prescriptive rights to certain parcels. So parcels, think of it as an overall blanket statement with respect to Civil 3D as an area of interest to some entity. Okay? Not exactly a surveying term, but if you think about the importance of delineating parcels in Civil 3D, that's a big deal. That's more the concern than what exactly they're called. It's just saying they can be many things, public, private, different rights of way, easements, and various things. So I might skip through some parts of this chapter to speed it up, but we're going to start with talking about parcel styles to differentiate different types of parcels and their appearance. So on 254, let's go to part 2 on that. And the best way to oftentimes get a parcel selected is to select its label. So I have it selected. This parcel is selected. You can also go into Tool Space here and select these parcels as well. Okay. There's one easement and many, many lots. For example, you can right click and say select or zoom to or pan to. Pan to. I'll say select. It selects it. That's another way. So just keep that in mind. In this case, since I'm here, let's go to the zoom to the standard 3, which on step 2 wants us to go to. And that is this huge parcel here. So let's click it. That's this remainder parcel, this existing ground that's getting subdivided around in this land development. And we get our contextual ribbon of parcel options up here. So let's change it to a different style, which once again, there's many ways. You can right click and go to parcel properties and do that. We'll just start with this, change them here to the style. You can reselect it and go here to change the style. And you can also have your contextual ribbon, once again, 3 or 4 different ways to do this, and change the style here. Edit the style, what's inside of it, or you can switch between the styles and the properties. Same dialog box we just saw. It looks familiar, doesn't it? So change the style here. We can go deeper into it here, which I do with survey analysis things all the time when I make reports or change where the parcel originates. In surveying, called its point of beginning, and it generally goes clockwise, but you can tell it to go the other way around, counterclockwise. These are important things for survey analysis that aren't exactly a big deal to us in this chapter, but I do use them on the regular when I am making parcels with different municipalities and states and counties. I use this data to transcribe information that they need to check. So let's go here again, and let's change its style to a joiner. And it changed its symbology. So the parcel, like a lot of Civil 3D objects, the style changes how it appears, right? Once again, let's hit Escape to clear our selection set. And we're going to go to the standard. Well, which one does it want? Oh, it did, as you see, change it, saying, hey, this is part of the label, the parcel label style. It said now it's in a joiner, so that populated. Its symbology and line type changed to a phantom line and various things. Its labeling might even change. That didn't change a lot, and then it has a numeric value. To speed some of this up, I'm going to go back to the tool space method and go to the one standard 6. We have a preview on. Remember to turn that on here if you haven't. That helps us to see, well, which one visually is it? You get a little confused the bigger the subdivision is. And I will say select, so it selects it. And in this case, let's go to change it this way. I have it selected. As you can see, my selection set parcel is the only thing selected there. I'll go to properties up here just to bounce between, getting used to that. Let's change it to the right-of-way parcel object style. Okay. Its symbology changed to a magenta, barely distinguishable phantom line there. It's hard to see with the black. And its label probably changed as well. There's its label. Gives its full area and square footage. So commonly with parcels, at least in the United States, of course, other countries were the weirdos, we use with parcels square footage and acres. So they a lot of times are used simultaneously. And there are 43,560 square feet in 1 acre. That is a number if you're doing subdivisions or any kind of parcel dividing. You will have that memorized before you know it. But these parcel labels help make that quicker. You can add them to the parcel label so it shows acreage in square footage. They're nice things to speed up your production process depending on your needs and what you want to see, how you want to see it. So let's clear a selection set again with Escape to release that parcel. We have no selection. Okay. And it wants us to select standard 4 and standard 7 parcels. So instead of bogging down, I'm going to go like this with shift right click or shift right click again to release it. I'm going to click them like that, populate them, and I'm going to say select. I should have 2 parcels selected. Verify that. Yes. I selected these 2 large ones. This was going to be our clubhouse open space area. This was going to be, kind of a remainder area for maybe a riparian buffer zone to some edge of water here. This being an edge of water, see when I hover on it, it says its name of the survey figure and the layer is on V Creek Edge. So this is probably our riparian area, a buffer zone of environmental impact basically to give some area for habitat for wildlife between urban development and things like bodies of water or marshes, various things. That's a really quick, rough explanation of what a riparian area is, but this might as well be one. But this case, when we go back here, we're going to change the style to open space. So we're just going to call these open spaces. And they could be for whatever reason, parks, playgrounds, shared usage amongst these parcels or lots, whatever they may be. A riparian area, for example, possibly. Let me hit escape to clear that selection set. We see that obviously these parcels have different Civil 3D object style. They have different Civil 3D objects. The styles show different graphic representations of the object, and they're changed by the Civil 3D style. So the Civil 3D object changed by the Civil 3D style is what I meant to say in short. And they are just a different symbology with green and different line thicknesses. If we turn on our line thicknesses here, we can see that's not affected too much here. They're very thin default lines, which is fine. Okay. And remember, your annotation scale changes your dynamic objects in CAD in real time. We'll leave that at 1 inch equals 20 feet, standard size. Let's zoom into the 90-degree bend on Jordan Court. And there's a tiny little parcel somewhere up here. In order to find it quicker, instead of muddling through that, let's go up here to this easement parcel. This is the one we want to select. Let's say select. Let's say zoom to. This is the tiny little parcel. This is an easement, shared access easement maybe, so all patrons or owners of these private lots that are served by public indoor private right-of-way can access this open space easement legally. They have an access strip that possibly, let's say, is all shared by all. We're going to change that style to easement. This is all pretty realistic, good ways to use parcels, possibly to quickly develop areas of land to different symbologies, to print with different labels. I really like the way they set this chapter up in that way. You can tell that whatever company these folks that built this definitely have a background in land development a little bit. Now we're going to get the rest. So basically hit escape to clear your selection set and grab just one of the rest of these standards. They're on the default Civil 3D style, as you may have noticed by this point in the class. One of the two default ones are often called basic or standard. They just kind of are placeholders that are just unedited Civil 3D styles if you haven't figured out by this point. So we're going to change all these to lots, but let me first do a right click, and I want to basically select the rest. Well, before I do that, it just wants me to do one. I could say select similar, and it will select all 53 of them. I could change them here. Okay. I'll hit Control Z to undo that real quick. And I'm going to refresh these. Interesting, Control Z did not work very well. That's a little bug there. But anyway, I changed them all. Let me try typing in regen all. There, I had to regenerate physically the drawing, which is kind of odd. Let me just pick one of these right here, let's say. And so there's some hitches between parcels refreshing automatically. Sometimes you got to kick them in the butt in tool space by right-clicking here and hitting refresh. And then other times you had to do the command, which I did, called regen all. You can start typing that command. Or you can go here, and this is your last several commands with the right-click menu here. So that's what I did. Sometimes you've got to regenerate parcels. I've found many times either between this command or right-clicking refreshing is how I best explain that in short. They don't always refresh automatically. So once again, I changed this one to style. You can see its symbology changes. On this lot 46, you can have picked any of these. I get different phantom lines here. I click on one of these, that's a parcel segment, one part of the parcel. If I click on the label, it clicks the entire parcel. That's one way. So I got that going for me. On step 10, it wants us to go into the tool space, into Prospector, into Sites, into Lot Layout, which is here. Okay. Oh, also, when you have your parcels on, you have to have this selected in this to show the previews. So if you have this turned off, it still will be black. So you have to have both this turned on for all items and then this turned on as well on the parcel header, which is kind of weird. Anyway, basically there's quick ways to grab all these, so I changed a few of these to open space and right away and a joiner parcel and one to lot. But let's grab the rest of these standard ones by holding shift and left click, grabs them all. And I have down here verified in blue, okay? And I have down here more of them selected. So I grabbed all the standard ones. And I'm going to right click in the style box. Very important to start with that. Actually, left click seemed to work fine. Right click brings up this menu. Okay. It could be an older version of CAD. You had to hit right click. Here I can just hit, we can move this one parcel. Well, actually, if you're up here in this header area, you can say select all of them or zoom to or pan to. But down here, let's go Control A. So I have them all selected within this selection set. It's kind of difficult. I'll hit standard here and I'll hit lot here. And it should change all of them. Let me type in regen all. Go here again. I'm going to can that idea. I was doing a few at a time. But in general, you could also just pick one of them and say right click, select similar, and change them this way. This is possibly a lot quicker. Okay. Let me unselect a few. But that way is fine. You can also go in here, and I was getting this to kind of work. Let's just grab a few more. You got to keep the blue on them. Make sure, oh, see that one reverted. So make sure they all stay blue. This is the key. When you hold shift and left data click, they need to all stay highlighted, either gray or blue. And now you should be able to change them all instead of doing the select similar method. It takes a minute, there they went. So that's kind of a cool trick, but I prefer honestly to have one picked and select similar and then change them this way. Of course, doing it the way the book shows lets you more surgically grab them. You can grab just the ones you want, a couple outliers, and you hold shift and keep left clicking. On the style column is the key. Right there, you can surgically pick exactly which ones you want and change them to something else, which is pretty cool. It takes a minute. It freaks out for a second. I changed a few of them to the right-of-way style. I'm going to hit regen all or regen. And I changed some of these to a right-of-way style like this, similar to this style. So cool ways you can surgically grab them here, or by getting creative in your selection set here, picking them manually or using select similar. Let's go to 256, talking about parcel style display order. I'm going to move to the next drawing. So oftentimes, this is interesting enough, if you make parcels touching each other adjacently like this, they generally share multiple boundaries, or possibly just one. In this case, they share this adjacent boundary. So one thing with parcel styles is you can tell the style which one to display first or last, depending on which symbology you want to be dominant in their shared boundaries. That's a critical piece if you're going to build these with the parcel manager. And we'll show you where to go to it by going into exercise 13.2. We're going to go to hit escape here to clear a selection set. We're going to go to tool space. Let's lower this a little bit to give us more real estate to the north or the top. Let's go to sites. Let's go to lot layout. Let me right click parcels. Let's open them up, but well, let's just right click and we'll say, in this case, properties. And you have all of a sudden your site parcel properties, and you can say which ones have which labels inside of them of the overall parcel. You can say which ones dominate in the order of showing the line over the next one. So property is on the top, then lot, then open space, then right of way and adjoiner. So these ones down here would be further down in the display order. That means these blue parcels would show ahead of a right of way parcel. So these lot parcels would be showing in display order ahead of the right of way parcels, generally what it means, okay? And since I have right of way selected, we're going to click on the upward button, basically till it's on the top of the list. So the right of way now has the priority. Okay. So the parcel style on top dominates the priority on which it is shown. We're basically going to go to, let's hit apply. That lets us stay in here, but it effectively changes things. Like I've said, if you hit OK, it changes things and also leaves the dialog box. So now you go into here into parcel 23. I'll more quickly get to it this way. You can see that this parcel segment, this right-of-way parcel now dominates. It is ahead in the display order. So let's go back there again and arrange the parcels in a different order. Let's go to all of we're in our sites, lot layout, not the easements. This gives us a preview of all the sites, right? Easements just the one. And let's go back to the header and say properties of all parcels. We're going to change it to this order right away, then adjoiner, and then it wants us to change it to open space, then lot, then property, then basic. Basic is like a standard style. So you can see some things went above and below each other. This one went above now. This is, let's just check that. This is the adjoiner style that dominates these lot ones, and you see how it's showing ahead of them now. So that can be kind of cool to mess with that. On to exercise 3, applying area labels, which are these bad boys essentially, and different styles of them. We're going to click on the adjoiner 3 label. And then we're going to go to the parcel properties in the contextual ribbon. We'll click on the composition tab, the parcel properties dialog box. And for the area selection label style, we're going to change it from standard, which is our default standard or basic, our default Civil 3D styles that are kind of placekeepers. Let's change it to something we want called existing description and area. Apply. In the information tab, we'll go back here. And in the description box, we're going to enter a little address. I'll pause it quick to add that. Well, in this case, it's not necessarily an address. It is the property owner and a description of where this document of this parcel can be found in a municipality's legal documents. So it's like a book and page that corresponds with the county right here, let's say, for example. We're just giving it some more information inside of this parcel to talk about, hey, what makes this parcel unique or whatever inside of it. And we'll hit OK. So now that becomes part of the parcel and description, and you have your acreages and your name of owner and your legal document it belongs to, and the county, for example, and its acreage. It's a very different label than the other ones, obviously. These are very basic standard labels. This one's getting more very exacting and specific on what you want. So let's go to the right-of-way 6 parcel. I have it selected and its style. And let's go to its properties once it's selected. On this one, let's go to composition and its area. Let's change it to none so we have no label. Here you can see its area and square footage and its parameter. It's vital stats, basically. That's all we're going to do for that one. That parcel label goes away. Now it's a little harder to select that bad boy. We can select the segments, but since it doesn't have a label anymore, we especially would have to go into here to select it now. So there it is. This is the easiest way to now select it. Now that it has no label, we can quickly grab. Now I have it selected, the same parcel, but a lot of them are far easier to just have a label to select like this, graphically, okay? But keep in mind that right away one does not anymore. Let's select both these open space parcels. We have two selected, and let's go into their properties here. I'm going to go through them this way. So I have two selected. Well, I can still go through them this way. This is kind of interesting. And this is how I get to edit the style, what makes it look unique. I can say it's label style here. And it's parcel area label style. I'm going to pick, so one on number 8, to propose description and area. This is another way to change multiple things at once. So I quickly changed these both all at the same time. I pre-selected them, then I changed the parcel area label style this other way that wasn't this way. If you have one thing selected, you can go here to its parcel properties, change it here, or right click and go here as well. Let's try it with two. So I have two selected. I can also right click and go this way as well for two items. But it's asking me to still just pick one. So this dialog box comes up in our ribbon and or our dynamic input, or some people call it microstation or heads up prompt or dynamic input. So this is your best way to grab multiple and change them in this way. All right. Now it's time to add our first parcel labels for our segments, or various other labels, actually. Parcel labels. We'll add segment labels in part 4. Make sure nothing's selected with the escape button to clear your selection sets. So let's go to Annotate, Add Labels. You can go to one at a time here, but I've also like to have this open for permanent. I like to click that. I've said that a few times by now, just getting ingrained. And we'll say parcel area label. And we'll call it, in this case, replace area for the label type. And the label area label style, we're going to pick lot number. And now we're going to go to add. And let's pick several parcels, basically. How do you best say this? To the ones with the label just lot. So let's just pick these. It summates the selection set, so it's continuing on. And I just picked what looks like several, 5 or 6. I'll hit enter. It changed their label type, placement, and its style. So I replaced its area label rather than adding it with this new style. Basically replace this with this. I could also say, let's add another one called parcel name, and I add it to this parcel. It adds 2 labels. Okay, I just wanted to replace it out. I don't want 2 labels. Now I have 2 parcel labels, basically. One's called parcel face label, one's called parcel. But the replace one's handy for switcherooing them. We'll try a new trick in part 14, or I should say step 14. We'll just pick one of the parcels. And at this point, we're going to look for something here called multiple parcel properties in the ribbon, which is kind of cool. This is the next level trick. Let's click it. So it's asking now for a start point. Okay. And we're going to pick a start point on one of the original lot label styles. Let's turn F3 on our O-snaps. So we have some snaps going on. Okay, we got some snaps going on. It's basically we're going to pick a random line through these. You make kind of a line, let's say in the middle here. Okay, you just make them. It's trying to recognize which ones it crosses. Let's just go across all of them. Let's see how this goes. It's been a few months since I've done this last. And we have all the points. Let's hit enter. So we have all the parcels selected. We're going to pick the line. Enter, enter. Oh, I think I had it there. Let me try it one more time. Click one of them. We have two selected. Let me try this again. Let me select one. We're going to multiple parcel properties. Of interest. Let's hit enter. It has them selected. Okay. And it says to hit enter a second time, which is the confusing part I missed last time. This dialog box is your key to salvation here, okay? It has what you need next. Now we're going to set the area label to style to lot number, and we'll keep its parcel. We can change its parcel style and its label. This is yet another way to surgically select a bunch of parcels this way graphically, or through tool space, or just physically grabbing them, right clicking saying select similar. This is just another tool for the toolbox. Let's click the disk. That's kind of weird, you have to hit that. I'm going to hit OK. Then we'll hit OK. Only change one of them. Enter. Yeah, I only got to do one. Let's try one more time. Picking one, multiple parcel properties. Let's just grab a bunch of them. It recognizes them, hit enter a second time. So this was a key. I had to get this in here. Kind of weird. I'd hit this plus box to say I want this lot number. Okay, this has to be in here to make this work. And now I can apply this area label style to all of them. It says now I have 10. Okay, that's pretty tricky. Yes. We'll say okay. I added a label on top of all of them. Of course, we can just do this one at a time. We can keep replacement area selected. Let's try this again. Let's make a zigzag through a bunch of them. This is a nice graphical additional tool. Hit OK or enter a second time. Let me change these all to lot number. Add. It says yes to 16. And I just changed all 16. So I didn't replace them, I just added them on top of. So now these have two lot labels, which further things. So that's pretty much the deep dive into part 3. Let's move to part 4, adding parcel segment labels now. Let's go to the fourth file and zoom in a little. As you can see, they changed all these to more favorable parcel area label styles and parcel styles that they wanted in the final for the lots, the right-of-way, the open spaces, the adjoiner parcel here, etc. wants us to zoom into these two lots, 32 and 33. And let's go back to our old friend on the Annotate tab and add labels this way. Let's keep this open, my favorite method. Go to Parcel, and Feature. Let's go to Add, let's not change too many of these settings. Let's just accept the features parcel, leave most of the default settings in your line label styles and your curve label styles. Let's just start adding lines. And we're just going to add one there. And we're going to add one here. We're going to add one here. Basically, I'm creating a bearing and distance label to better annotate the parcels. And the labels basically, if you click to nearest where you click is where the label will populate. So if you want it in the middle, you got to click kind of close to the middle. That's kind of key to make these placed good initially. You can move them, edit them later. So let's go to lot 69 here, and we'll click the curve that makes up this south boundary right here. We'll add a curve one. So basically it's just saying, hey, I got a line type label style and I got a curve label style. This is obviously a curve. Here's another chunk of the curve right here. This obviously it was smart enough to find little sections of this curve, this little piece, this longer piece, and this longer piece. This is handy for multiple curves. So I'm going to hit escape. And let's pick on one. And you get your familiar grips. You got a slider. You got a square grip to pull it in its drag state. So this one labeled this arc in 3 different spots. That's very handy. 3 segments within a larger segment. There's a lot of ways to do this. For example, I have a subdivision I did here in Missoula. I had a lot of labels on these right-of-ways and lots I did, and some are lines, some are interior distances, some are parts of a whole. So how do I best show this without getting convoluted? Let me go into a different part of this subdivision with all these lots and right-of-way. On this part, for example, I have a arc on this right-of-way with no breaks in it. It's length, radius, and delta, or percentage of the full 360-degree circle. This one has nothing between it. Let's find one that isn't not like that. For example, we have a long arc here. So it starts up here, goes all the way down. It's huge. This label is representing this long arc all the way to here. But within this large arc, we have many small segments that have to be pieced together to be defined in this subdivision. We have one here. We have one here. We have one here. Excuse me, I missed one. We have one here. So one between here and here, one between here and here. Now this one between here and here. And we have this one between here and here. And we have the final couple between here and here, which is this one. And the very last one is not almost 100-foot length, arc length, here and here. So all 5 of those parts make the whole. So these labels can get pretty complex in these subdivisions to define them to get approved with wherever you're at. I have a few of those instances. The lines are almost a lot easier. Here we have another arc with 2 parts inside of it that make a whole. Here we just have a line. This is overall the same bearing and distance. So bearing is the vector, but this is the nomenclature in common to surveying and land surveying with the 4 quadrants, northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest of a degrees, minutes, and seconds. Usually no decimal seconds because it's almost too much accuracy by far for our modern equipment even. And a distance or a magnitude of that vector. So bearing and distance, some people call meets and bounds. That's this whole line of the subdivision. And now, since we have the bearing established, it's inferred here, the way I annotated that this is the same bearing, and this is the same bearing. So I just say these 2 distances Better yet, let's label them with a highlighter. These two distances make up this larger one. So there's a lot of labels on these. This is a huge part of parcel plan sets that you can really see on this job I did here by annotating all these very specifically lines and curves. So this is a little bit bigger picture what a final plan set may look like to final completion of annotation on a legal record that is permanently filed with a municipality. Okay, going on to a new part of the book. On page 262 or 263, we'll talk again about curves. A little quick review again. A simple curve that is tangent between the curve and the entering tangent line or exiting tangent line. The entering being the point of curvature or the point of beginning of curvature, the PC, and the leaving one, the PT, the exiting tangent line. So in a true tangent arc or curve to line, this angle here between, if you drew a straight line between the PT or PC to the center point of the radius of the arc or curve, with respect to this line, this is always 90 degrees, right here and right here. That is my quickest, best, most precise way to say that is a tangent arc and line scenario. This is what we want. This is something to really hone in on and memorize for the geometric properties of proper civil and land surveying design. If you can do this, you have non-tangent ones where this is no longer 90 degrees or this angle is no longer 90 degrees. Anything but 90, it is a non-tangent. So it could be a small 1 degree off, it is non-tangent. That happens when you're trying to field fit surveys or various other reasons, but this is ideal. So the chord is this distance. The delta, that's that triangle, delta Greek symbol we saw, that is the percentage of the whole circle. The radius is this distance from tangent. These deltas also correspond here. The PI is where both tangents would theoretically meet at a point of intersection, called a PI, point of intersection, if this curve wasn't here. And then lastly, we have our curve length, which is the actual length of the curve considering its curvature, not just the straight line. Okay, so keep these things in mind. These are all very important terms. Some jurisdictions want many of these items. In Montana, most of them, for example, want the length, the radius, and the delta to define a curve or arc. Some places want a PI and a chord added to it and other various things, but this is a very important page to memorize in your learning. So let's start adding more parcel segments to our drawings. On exercise 5, we'll go here, which we can see we have many added already. Now keep in mind, you can also add these as line segments. So this is just a quick review. If I go to add labels again, and instead of going to the parcel feature and adding these line labels and curves, you can also go to the line and curve and you can build similar ones here. And I often do this when I don't use parcel features and I'm just want to annotate lines and polylines. We can also annotate using these, which oftentimes I will do on jobs like this that have very unique geometries all over the place, but also design parcels. So I mostly labeled this with lines and curves, but lines and curve labels are almost similar to parcel labels. So think of them as the same things, line and curve labels and parcel segment labels. The end result is similar, annotation of lots. If I go to another one, this one for sure I did. It's a very complex, large survey of a huge part of agricultural land in western Montana and eastern Montana. These are all line labels, but they're similar principles to editing parcels, or annotating parcels. Line, curve, and parcel labels are all very similar on the segment, how they show them. So these are mostly lines, for example, with distances and sometimes with bearings and distances here. These would be the little distances in between, for example. So anyway, this is just some jobs that I've used a plethora of options to annotate the parcels of creation. So let's get on with 13.5, and it says it wants us to zoom into the bearing distance labels on the west side of the project, which here they are. I added a few new ones, but look at the green one. The labels here are shown in a proposed style with both bearing and distance, as you can see, the vector and the magnitude, or bearing and distance, aka also meets and bounds, some people will say. It wants us to click the label for the west side of John Smith property. Which is our joiner parcel up here. And here's the west side. So let's click that label. And we can do the same thing. Right click, go to label properties here, or style. You can change the label style here or edit them. You can also change the curved labels here. These are for curves and for lines, two different things. This happens to be a line label, of course. So, but it's also called a parcel segment label. So when I do a line label, for example, and I put it next to this is a different style, but they show similar things, as you can see. I could even show this as, well, that's similar, but they aren't of the same style, meaning they don't look the same, but they're showing similar information. This one's showing the same bearing, for example. This is a line label style. This one is a parcel segment style. So you can see they can be the same-ish. You have to manipulate the styles to have the same properties within them to get the same result. So I have the Add Labels dialog box closed. I have added this label. Of course, this has a different style. We're back here just for a quick review. Parcel, single segment. We picked this line label style. We added it. I'll add more. Let's close this for now and pan south to lots 36, 37, 56, and 59. Or 60 and 59. Wish I had a photo for this. So basically these 4 lots here, my lasso. Let's click the 4 labels to correspond to picking the parcels. In this case, let's go to label. Oh, I got them picked. 1, 2. In this case, let's go to properties of all 4, which it simply just opens this dialog box. I'm not actually seeing what it's describing. I don't have label options when I have these multiple parcels selected. So I can isolate them, get properties, go to different sites, but I almost have to do one at a time. So let me pick 1. Now I should have the option to add labels. Yeah, I do. If I pick 2, that goes away in my contextual ribbon. So disregard that book instruction. Pick 1, say add labels. Let's say in this case, multiple segment. Let's just pick this parcel. Clockwise, pick that one. I'll say clockwise, I'll pick this parcel. Clockwise, I still have the command running. Pick that parcel, go clockwise. Clockwise or counterclockwise dictates the direction the bearing goes in its directionality. So a northeast could only be 2 directions. It could either be, or excuse me, in this case, a northwest could either be northwest in this direction, or southeast in this direction. They're always a 180 of each other, so it has to be one or the other. So I'm just adding labels quickly this way. Enter, click that, enter. You can also do that going this method to home, annotate. I prefer this. Going back to your permanent dialog box, going to parcel, and you can say multiple segments. We'll just pick that as the land label style. We'll say add, pick each parcel at one at a time. One at a time, enter, one at a time, enter. I haven't figured out a way yet to do many parcels at once. That would be nice. There's probably a way somewhere in an add-in, but I haven't figured it out yet. So if I pick this one, this is a common lot parcel segment shared between lots 55 and 54. But as you can see, it's smart enough to only create one label, which is kind of nice. If you're doing the line and curve labels, it would not be necessarily that smart. It would find them as two polygons. Unless you only had one line here, it would be smart enough to label it once. But these were smart enough to do that, which is helpful in curtailing the amount of labels I have. So we're going to get into editing parcel segment labels graphically on 265. And there's different things you can do. You go into them and change them. Once they're made, we have different grips. Okay, so let's go into that file, editing labels graphically. It says the drawing is zoomed into parcel 68, which it sort of is. If you haven't, go to it. Let's click the label on the west side of 68, this one. And we have different label properties. And in this case, let's hit properties. It just takes us here, which is kind of weird, but it does. It doesn't have its own dialog box. We'll go to line label style to bearing only. So we just have the bearing now instead of the bearing in distance. Okay. With the label still selected, this is pretty important stuff to edit these later. We have different options. We can edit the text inside of it. In this case, we're going to do the flip. So it flips it on different sides of the line. Okay. With the diamond shaped grip, which shows you we can slide it. Okay. We can also reverse the label, which reverses the direction or the bearing only. So like I said, they're only 180 to each other. So northeast pointing towards New York City, the 180 to that is what? Like Phoenix, Arizona. So it goes the opposite 180 direction. That's how you reverse the directionality, depending on your needs and what you want to convey and what direction you're doing your lots. We're going to hit escape, clear our selection set. We're going to go to the west side label of 62. We're going to reverse it. We're going to flip it. We're going to change its properties here to just bearing only. Example. Let's use some of these grips to pull it this direction. That slides it that way. This adds different markers. This resets that. This resets it right here. You can also pull it off like that. You can hit reset up here as well. Let's pull it off with that grip. Let's toggle label pin. So this will pin it to one spot, so you can never move it. That could be good. I don't use it a lot. You can also have a label select and edit its text inside of it. We'll say, in this case, I want to edit the bearing text. Put a custom note here, let's just say, of whatever style and color you want. You can also get to all these things by right-clicking and going to flip label, reverse label, reset it back, toggle it, add pins to it, tails. So right-click menus after they're selected, or if you have it selected, your contextual ribbon, or graphically. Let's take that pin off. So graphically, contextual ribbon, or right-click. They all can do very similar things with segment labels. Okay. Let's go to file number 7, creating an area table of parcels. These drawings can get very cluttered. As you see, like when I go into my drawing here for Eastern Montana, this gets very busy. This had a lot going on, information of the land surveying and the sections and the public land survey system and all kinds of various things talking about the monuments found. They can get very busy. So in order to clean some of that stuff up, we can make what we call tables. Excuse me. And oftentimes the tables can have unique tags. For example, if I go to a different project here, you can see an exact same area of the subdivision I did in Montana with all the parcel segments and lines and curves labeled, and it got really tight. But I still needed to label all these little easements and various things legally on this subdivision. So I go to the next sheet, literally a mirror image of itself, but different labels. So this one has all of them fully graphically shown. This one, I have tables for all my curves and for my lines. And you can see the difference. See how much more cleaned up one is? There's no way I could have fit all this information on these two sheets onto one sheet. That would have just been too much. There's maybe things I could have done to clean this one up, but it is what it is. It makes sense. On this sheet, I knew I had to do this. So if I go into here, we have little tags, and these, where the curves and lines are, just correspond to little keys or tags, with the C being its curve 29 or line 26, which just corresponds to line 26 here, the bearing and distance, or curve 23, the curve with a length, radius, and delta. So it just neatens up in a graphical form of a table rather than a full graphical form, fully drafted out and annotated this way. So this is a very good representation of what exercise 6 is getting after to clean up this way. Okay. Back to the drawing at hand, actually number 7, it wants us to click just one of the lot number labels. It wants us to go in a very specific fashion, kind of interestingly. Let's start here. This one is a command I haven't used in a while, but we click one. It's very similar to the multiple parcel properties, but we're going to renumber, rename many at once. Let's click this. Now pay attention to your dialog boxes that come up next. We'll use this one. We'll call it lot layout. We'll just accept these as starting number 1 and how much you want to increment up. This is stuff you could change. Okay. We'll use this as the checkbox. Make sure you do that. You can rename or renumber them or do both. So we're just going to say, in this case, renumber. I'll hit OK, and I want them to start at 1. It says, am I heads up prompts or command bar? They work hand in hand. They tell you what to do when you're in a foreign land of commands. Always remember that with civil. We'll say start point. Sounds good. Let's pick here. And let's go off the picture on 268 right here. Go in this direction. I might fail at this once. It's been a while. We can try doing just a few of them. Let's try giving it a go for all of them. We'll just go slow. It's basically making a path through every said parcel on this outer periphery zone around the right of way. We'll end here. Okay. I think the key is, once you get here, is to hit enter twice. Enter once and enter twice. And then it takes and renumbers them all, 1 through 40. Boom. That was pretty slick. That would have been handy to know many times in my past, how to do that quick renumbering of parcels. Okay. Pretty cool trick. So let's make sure escape's hit to clear our previous selection. Let's zoom into these lots in the center of our project now, these bad boys that we have all parcel segment labeled out. We're going to do something similar. We're just going to pick one. We'll start at lot 68, doesn't really matter. And we'll pick one lot to get this command started. We'll go to renumber, rename. We'll keep going at 41 because that's where we left off with our last renumbering. We'll say yes, use name and template and the style of the parcel, which is this one. That's critical. Turn that. Okay. Let's go to a bunch of clicks. Let's make a U-turn, go this way, enter twice, and these all update. So we're up to the next consecutive numbers, the parcels. So we have the parcels still selected here. Let's hit escape to clear that selection set. Let's pick one of these again, but this time let's pick a lot label. I don't know if it matters which one. It just matters that we're going to get this command dialog box going up here, okay? And it wants us to pick, in this case I would do it slightly different, but this is fine. I have one selected. Not exactly what I wanted. I'm looking for a label tag here. I guess I was wrong. Don't select one of these parcel segment labels. You don't have ability to do tags this way with them. But pick one of the parcel lot labels here, and we'll go here to table creation and add tables and add area of the table. So we do have different options if we pick the parcels once again, then the parcel labels. Let's pick which ones we want. For table style, I just want to show area only of the all parcels. Label or style. Let's go to this one here since we know we did them all at lot labels. This is saying which of what style or lot number. Checkbox that. You can select them manually with this as well if you're having trouble picking which style of the parcels you want it to label. This is just more advanced to segregate them. Let's, for this, I'm going to say 60 rows because I know there's a lot of them. Let's hit OK. We'll make a column over here somewhere of all these parcels 1 through, what is it, 53? Made them all with their little areas and acreage. A quick table. And this is dynamic. So when this changes, let's look at 20 here. 4, 3. Keep an eye on it here. Let's change something with 20. The frontage. That updated. So that's one cool thing about tables. They continue the dynamicness all the way to the end. Last part of this chapter, it's going to be me going back to the drawing board like I did with this survey I've done in Montana, showing how to make these parcel segment labels into tables. So into tags and tables like this to simplify drawings full graphically or with some tables. Okay. You may want to do it to tidy things up, to keep information more concise. Things are crowded, like I just showed you, all kinds of reasons. So let's go into the final file, creating a segment table. This is what your lot area table would look like if I would allowed it to have 20 rows in each one. It makes different columns. I said 60, so it extended it. There's different graphics to do this too. You can move them separate from each other as well. Control Z, regen all. Guess it didn't like that. I'll have to move it manually. So we're going to go here to the Annotate tab, and down here you can go this way, but I'm going to go to open this and go to Parcel. Oh, wrong one. Not labels. Let's go to tables, parcel, add curve. Your table creation dialog box comes up. Length, radius, delta is a good style. Under the label style name, let's go to the parcel curve type, not the general curve. These are lines and curves generals. We got to go to the parcel curve, delta over length and radius. So all the basically every label that is of this style is what this is saying will become a tag. Hit OK. We'll add this right here. So all these curves, this is their tag now. We have all kinds of data inside them, length, radius, delta, chord length, and direction as well for these. So if you look around, it converted them to little tags, which correspond to a small shorthand version of this annotation to this table dynamically. Okay, so when I move this, you can see things update here and all the parcels affected with that change. I'll Control Z to undo that. Regenerate. I just got to kick these in the butt all the time. So this is once, let's go to lot 41 and pick this label in the northwest corner. And then with the circular grip, reset it. Interesting. Didn't seem to do anything. I had to regenerate again. With the label still selected, let's have it selected and say renumber tags. It renumbered it to 1 because that's what it had in default. Let me hit escape to clear the selection set and let me pick the one next to it. I don't think it really matters. Let's just pick this one and renumber this tag. That'll go to 2 and so on. Click that one, renumber it. That one goes to 3. These can get a little tricky to renumber this way. There's a lot of settings to make them work better or not. They can be frustrating for a lot of people to get them to go in right order, especially as things change. We're just kind of making our way around, and you always miss one while you're doing this. You're like, oh, I wanted to add one in this X, Y, or Z sequence. Easy to do. But there's more advanced ways to renumber these in mass that we won't go over here. So in the Annotate tab, we'll go to Add Labels this way. Well, let's open this all the way up. Go to the feature of parcel. And we're going to get multiple segments. This is one of my favorite tools to speed things up. And we're going to add the style. We'll just accept these bearing over distance, delta over length and radius. We'll add there. Let's go to parcel 17 and 18. We'll accept or hit it with a click clockwise, one at a time. And we can do a bunch of these. Wants us to renumber the tags to keep in sequence. This is kind of painstaking. I can pick multiple ones, I believe. No, I cannot. One at a time. This is definitely not the best way to do this, but this is a good starting point to learn how to do this. One at a time. So at this point, we're going to add a curve table. And in order to do that, let's end the chapter this way. Well, I mean, we already have the curve table. Here it is. And they have certain curves added to it, but we've made a bunch of new curves down here. We made some more designs. We wanted these curve labels added to it. So let's do that. We got to click the curve table first, and then let's add some items. There's various things to add, remove, and replace. Let's grab, I'm going to use this little icon. And I mean, we could also pick them like this to re-add them as well. Or you can pick them manually with this button. Hit OK. That added the rest of them. Now, if I wanted to add even more, I might just say, let me use this button. Let me pan over the whole thing so I get them all. Hit enter. It found 21 of them. Let's see if it adds any more than 21 here. I'll hit OK. Looks like I got them all. So that's the end of chapter 13. We learned a bunch of ways to further edit parcels.